guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing, and I am here with my weekly wrap-up. So the first book that I read this week was a book that was left over from the Booktubeathon. I just didn't finish it within the week and within my blog, and that was Eleanor by Jason Gurley. This is a book I read because I bought it for the cover, because as you can see the cover is absolutely beautiful. And this is about a family, and it starts off with the grandmother, and we meet her when she's quite young, and her daughter is quite young, and we see that she's kind of struggling with depression, and she loves the sea and she loves to go swimming. And then it goes years later and we meet her daughter Agnes when her daughter is grown up, and she has twin daughters of her own, and we know that something very, very tragic happened to her mother Eleanor, and one of her twins is named Eleanor after the grandmother. And then another tragedy occurs, and then we meet Eleanor when she is a teenager, and she is looking after her mother who has become an alcoholic, and we see Eleanor struggling with a lot of different things to do with her family. And then all these weird things start happening to Eleanor, and she's kind of like, it's almost like she's transported into different realities and different worlds and these spaces in between worlds and stuff like that. Like, I can't really explain it, but it's basically like a form of magical realism basically, and it's like she's in our world one moment and the next she's somewhere completely different, and when she comes back a certain amount of time might have passed in our world. It could have been a few hours, it could have been a few days, she never really knows, and she has no idea what's happening to her. Obviously her dad is really concerned about her best friend is very concerned about her, they've no idea what's going on. And we just kind of follow Eleanor throughout the years while all this kind of stuff is happening, and the different stuff she finds out, and how, you know, the kind of the truth of where she is going and who is bringing her to these places is revealed eventually. And I really, really enjoyed this. I just thought that it was just really beautifully written. There's just this like grief that's like throughout the entire book, because there's been a lot of grief in this family and a lot of tragedy in this family, and I feel like it carried itself really well throughout. We could see that this grief that was like riding throughout the entire generations, it was something that, you know, it all came down to what was happening to Eleanor, and you know, she was fighting that herself, and she was trying to figure out if there was a way that she could basically solve all these problems herself through what was happening to her. And like I said, it obviously sounds really, really complicated, but when you read it, it makes sense. But I did really, really enjoy this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book I have to talk about is a book I got from the publishers for review. It's one I requested, and it's The Epic Crush of Jeannie Lowe by FCE. I got this from Abrams and Chronicle / Amulet Books in exchange for an honest review, obviously. And I'm so glad I requested this. It just sounded really, really awesome, to be honest. And I knew it was something I definitely wanted to read, but this was just so kick-ass, so girl power. I think everyone needs to read it basically. This is about a girl called Jeannie Lowe. She is Asian American, and she is obviously working very, very hard in school, trying to get good grades and try and get a scholarship to college, because she really, really wants to go to college. She really wants to do well in her life through what she could achieve by going to college. And one day this new guy turns up in school. His name is Quentin's son, and weird things are happening with him. He keeps kind of paying a lot of attention to her. She doesn't know why, and eventually he tells her that he is the Monkey King from Chinese folklore, and she knew him, he knew her basically in a past life, and he needs her again to help fight demon invasions on Earth. Because all these demons have escaped hell, and they're going to try and kill all these humans, and Quentin and Jeannie now need to team up and try and fight all of these demons. And she obviously doesn't believe him at all, and then some things happen where she has to kind of concede that he's telling the truth. So she kind of turns into a kind of angry teenager with really good grades to an angry teenager with really good grades who can also fight demons, and suddenly has all these powers that she never even knew she had. And this is just hilarious. It was so funny. It was refreshing. Like, she is so kick-ass, and she's the way, like, just, I don't know, everything about Jeannie just like made me want to be her friend and made me want her in my life, because she is just an amazing female character. This obviously has a lot to do with Chinese folklore. The Monkey King is a character in Chinese folklore, and I didn't I don't know anything about Chinese folklore, like, or very, 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 very little. So this actually, like, kind of taught me a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot more, like, about it by reading this book, and I want to know more now after reading it. And I'm just so eager for more books about Jeannie because I think she's amazing. And I just love this so much. She has a really great friendship with, she's like a best friend, and her best friend like pops up quite a bit. So I'm really looking forward to the next book to see if her best friend actually knows more about what's going on in Jeannie's life, and if she kind of tries to help out, because she's a really amazing best friend. Like, just some of the stuff she does for Jeannie is just, you know, what a best friend should do, and I just really love their friendship. The action scenes in this book were really, really great as well. I would definitely, like, they just gave me everything I wanted. Sometimes, like, an action scene would start and then it would be the end of the chapter, and then the next chapter would start and it would be a couple of weeks later. So that was the only kind of gripe I had with it, where I would have liked to have stayed in those fight scenes longer and know more about what happened in that particular fight. But I generally don't really have a lot of complaints about this book at all. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was excellent, and I would definitely recommend it as a kick-ass girl power read. The next book I read was one I got from NetGalley, and it was The Night Brother by Rosie Garland. This is a pretty interesting book. This is set in the 1900s in Manchester, and it is about a girl called Edie Latchford. And when Edie, during the day, Edie is Edie, and she's going about, she has a mother who doesn't really treat her right, doesn't seem to really love her, and she's kind of trying to find her own way in this kind of fraught family life that she has. You know, she wants to be more educated, she wants to go out and explore the world a little bit more, and then during the night Edie actually turns into her brother called Gnome. So it's like they share one body. It's like during the day she's a girl, and during the night she turns into a male and she turns into Gnome. And like Edie kind of, you know, her consciousness fades away and she becomes Gnome, and during the day Gnome fades away, becomes Edie. And it's really interesting, and you see this like throughout their entire childhood, and they're kind of fighting each other a bit. Like, they both want more control of the other. They feel the other isn't treating them right. Like, things Gnome is doing is kind of affecting Edie's life, and Gnome feels that some stuff Edie is doing is affecting his life during the night, and they're really kind of struggling towards, you know, they can't really seem to make any agreement about how they should share their body. And we kind of see a back and forth going through, and sometimes Edie wins and it takes control a little bit longer, and then Gnome comes along and tries to destroy everything that Edie has built up. So there's a very fraudulent relationship there between the two of them. But it was really, really interesting to follow. We see Edie, she gets involved with the suffragettes, and she kind of learns more about the movement towards women's votes and more women's rights and stuff like that, and that was a really interesting to like just to put in. And you see Gnome's opinion on it, and he thinks, you know, like, women should have a place and this, that and the other, but then he kind of comes up with all these evil plans to try and ruin Edie's life. And it's kind of one of those things, I really wanted to like Gnome for like the book, because at the start of the book I really liked him, and then he starts to do all these terrible, terrible things, and you get really angry at him, but at the same time he's part of Edie, and I really liked Edie, so there was still a part of me that really liked Gnome, because I knew underneath it all he wasn't actually that bad, he was just frustrated and confused. And yeah, I think this is a really, really good book. Obviously it has there is like kind of an LGBT themed in this book as well, and we see Edie kind of go into a society of people who are gay and lesbians and bi and stuff like that. So there is a bi character in it, there are gay characters in it, which is pretty interesting for like the 1900s, like Manchester. I wasn't sure how like that would work out, and we kind of see the way these people were able to meet up and, you know, enjoy each other's company without being kind of looked down upon and without being arrested or anything like that. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And I also just think that this was a really, really interesting book about kind of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man and what it is to be neither or both. So obviously I'm a cisgendered person, and I identify as born female, I identify as female, I identify as a straight female. So I don't know what it's like to, you know, feel like I'm in the wrong body, or feel like my gender isn't, you know, isn't fixed. Like, you know, gender is fluid, but there's some things with this book that I feel like other people who might be trans or non-binary I feel like there's something in this book that people who are of a different sexuality than me would get more out of, and I would be really, really interested in seeing what kind of feelings people who are trans or non-binary have about this book, and if there's any like things that they just got out of it, because I feel like there's a lot of really great messages in there about, you know, what it is to be both or neither or either or, and I feel like, yeah, I just found it really, really interesting as a reader, and I would just love to know what other people who are a little bit different to me would have felt about this book as well. So yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really, really enjoyed it. And the last book I finished this week was a book I got from the publishers, and it was Sam Hannigan's Woof Week. And I got this from the O'Brien Press, and as you can see, this is like a kind of middle grade children's book, and it's about an Irish girl called Sam Hannigan, and one day she and her friend are messing about with one of her granddad's inventions, as she ends up getting stuck inside the body of her next door neighbour's dog Barker, but something goes wrong and she can't basically become unstuck, so she ends up having to walk around as Barker and pretend that she's just in a really, really good dog costume for a 4 or 5 days, and we just see her adventures. We see her uncovering some mysteries and some bad things bad people are doing, and I loved this one. This one was so good. Like, it was just so much fun. It was one of these books that's so much fun. Sometimes when you're going into children's books as an adult, I feel a little bit concerned, because I'm like, you know, obviously I know I probably would have enjoyed this a lot more when I was younger. Will I enjoy it as much now? And I can say, as an adult, I really enjoyed this book. I just thought it was so much fun. It was such a nice little refreshing read after reading obviously some adult books during the week. I was able to pick this up and just laugh along. Obviously I read it like within a day. It was like so good. I think I read it in 2 sittings, and yeah, it was just a whole lot of fun, and it has some really cute like little like illustrations in it, because the author is also an illustrator and a comic book writer and stuff. So there we have Sam as Barker, dressed up in her Irish dancing costume because she's an Irish dancer. There is Stinker the dog doing some farts, which is his special power. Yeah, so this is just really enjoyable. I really, really love this. I would definitely recommend anyone who has kids like 10, 11, 12, older even, younger even, if they like reading, I would definitely say to pick this up, especially if you're Irish, because there's a lot of things to do here with Irish dancing. A lot of the names are Irish. Obviously it's an Irish publishers, so you know, this will obviously be in a lot of Irish bookstores, so I would definitely say to go and buy it. So it is out the, I think it's the 14th or the 15th of this month, so it's out like within the next couple of weeks, so I definitely say to pick it up because I loved it and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So that is everything I read this week. Please let me know what you guys think of the books I read, and thank you for watching. I will see you guys again next week. Bye!